We're doing The Great Figure by William. Among the rain and lights, I saw figure 5 in gold on a red fire truck, moving tense, unhealed, to gong clangs, siren howls, and wheels rumbling through the dark city. Miranda, what do you think the subject of the poem is?
A fire truck.
Yeah, I think The Great Figure was about a fire truck. And I think the speaker of the poem is the author for sure.
Yeah.
What do you think the tone of the poem is? Because it's like saying I saw siren howls and wheels rumbling. Like, that sounds like...
Urgency.
Yeah, for sure, urgency. I saw some images in the poem, like gold, red, fire truck, siren howls, rain, rain's an image, light, and dark city. You notice any figures of speech?
Personification, because the howl and sirens and the rumbling wheels.
Oh yeah, that is personification.
What symbols, if any, does the poem contain, and what do they represent?
It mentions figure 5, which I assume was the number on the side of the fire truck, and other symbols were sirens, wheels, which were just describing the fire truck, and lights as well, and then it just talked about a dark city. What elements are most important in the poem?
The description of the fire truck.
Yeah, that's what the whole poem is kind of based about, the description of a fire truck.
How does the poet use rhyme and other sound effects?
Well, each line is about a word long, so it uses short lines for a sound effect to make it like sharp, like da 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 da, like each word, here you go. So easy to read, short, small.
And what do you think the poem's title means?
The Great Figure definitely means fire truck. What's the poem's theme or main idea?
I think it's when a fire truck is going to like the scene of an accident.
Yeah, because it says sirens howl and wheels rumbling through a dark city. So it's probably like driving super fast through a city to get through the scene.
In at least a solid paragraph, discuss our emotional response to the text.
It made us think that the fire truck was in action with the great descriptions of the fire truck moving. And the author presented that really good. And it makes me visualize a fire truck driving really fast into an empty city.
How do you relate?
We don't relate to fire trucks. How does
It make us feel? It doesn't really make us feel anything because we're not in the poem.
And we chose that the poem presents imagery of a fire truck in action. Poem 2. You can read that if you want.
Alright. 9 by E. Cummings. There are so many TikToks clocks everywhere telling people what TikTok time it is. 4 tick tick instant, 5 talks minutes talk past 6 tick. Spring is not regulated and does not get out of order, nor do its hands of a little jerky move over numbers slowly. We do not wind it up and has no weight. Spring wheels inside of a slender self. No, indeed, dear, nothing of its kind. So when kiss spring comes, we'll kiss each other on kiss the kiss lips, because clocks talk don't make a talk tick difference to kiss you and to kiss me.
That was 9 by E. Cummings.
Alright, so what do you think the subject of the poem is?
The subject is that clock intervals shouldn't matter. Like, there's time. There really should be no such thing as time, and nature doesn't really rely on time. It just kind of does its own thing. Who do you think the speaker is of the poem?
The author, E. Cummings. What is the tone of the poem?
There's no such thing as time. What figures of speech does the poem contain?
Repetition, onomatopoeia, personification, and then that's
It uses repetition when it says kiss, kiss, kiss 8 times in the last paragraph. It says tick tock and tick tock tock. It blah 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 blah. It repeats that tons of times. So that's repetition. And then onomatopoeia. Where's are we using onomatopoeia? For
personification, we did. It related it to like.
Oh, onomatopoeia is for the tick-tocks, because that's what clocks make. And then for personification, it says its hands a little jerking move. It's talking about the hands on the clock, which is personification.
Which image does the poet use?
It uses clock, seasons, and he doesn't like how life is revolved around a clock and wants to be able to do things freely.
What symbols, if any, does the poem contain, and what do they represent? The clock, the time, and the kiss and introduce.
Yeah, the clock represents time. The clock represents time. And the kissing, it says, so when kiss spring comes, we'll kiss each kiss. So it's basically saying when spring comes, they'll be introduced to spring. They're like kissing it like a welcome. Like, all right, time for spring. I'll kiss you hello. What elements are most important in the poem?
The most important, spring's not on a time schedule. Least important is referring to the time 5, 6. I understand the poem. Read the whole question. It's okay. Just number 8. How does the poet use rhyme and sound effects?
It uses tick-tock a lot to use sound effects.
What does the poem's title mean?
The title is 9, and it says tick-tock or talk-tick or tick-tock 9 times exactly in the poem. What is the poem's theme or main idea?
It is that nature isn't revolved around time. There's no such thing as a time. In at least a solid paragraph, discuss your emotional response to the text. How do you relate? What does it make you think of? And how do you feel?
The author presents the idea that there's no such thing as time. And my emotional response to the poem was, it's weird to think about there's no such thing as time, and it's actually a man-made thing that everybody relies on, and without time, then we'd have no structure to live off of.
Right here.
Yeah.
We can relate to it because he mentions people are 24/7 on a time schedule, and we are also on a time schedule. We feel that time is precious, and we shouldn't be restrained to a clock. It made us think that society has become very reliant to clocks. Of the following characteristics, choose one that is best presented in the poem.
We thought that poetry that is hard and we thought it was poetry that was hard and clear and never blurred or indefinite. It stated that spring is not regulated and does not get out of order nor do its hands. So that's like straight up the point. Like, spring is obviously not on a time schedule, and that's what the whole poem is saying. Like, why are we on a time schedule? He wants to do things freely. Spring does things freely, and it just states that clearly.